And now we turn to another major story that much of the media is ignoring. It surrounds scandal, cover up, and evidence of medical malpractice. It's the true story of a medical terrorist, corporate healthcare greed, and a legal system plagued by corruption. And it's a story of how a lawyer put it all on the line to expose the truth and suffered greatly for standing up for justice. Joining me now is the lawyer at the center of that story, author of The Butcher of Pakistan, Eric Deters. Eric, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for having me. I really appreciate it.
So let's talk about this. What is the book, The Butcher of Pakistan, about?
It is the most extraordinary story of how a Pakistani doctor came over to the United States and finagled his way into the hospital system in the Cincinnati area. And they protected him because of his Muslim background, Pakistani background. It's like DEI run amok. And at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, which is considered the #1 ranked Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and about 5 or 6 other hospitals in the Cincinnati area, Kimberly, he did probably 1,000 or more unnecessary spine surgeries.
Terrible.
I represented 580 of them. But the bottom line is he did 580 unnecessary spine surgeries, and these people suffer the most horrible problems day in and day out. And the hospitals, the C-suites in the hospitals actually knew that he was doing unnecessary spine surgeries, including at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and they looked away because he was their #1 biller.
That's true. It's all about corporate greed. They make a lot of money off of these surgeries when you add in anesthesia and everything and aftercare, etc. That's a very complex and serious surgery, and one that you don't want to do unless you absolutely have to. So let's talk about this, because you were brave enough to stand up and to fight for these people and expose this criminal. What is the status of the legal battle today for the victims of Dr. Durrani?
It is the most extraordinary legal battle in the history of American law, Kimberly. And it's sad that the Cincinnati area media, who is owned by the Cincinnati area hospitals, have refused to report on that. That is the importance of you giving me this platform today. So here's the status of things. The hospitals settled. They finally decided, hey, we need to settle and we'll take care of it. Durrani was insured and is insured by a company called Medical Protective, which is wholly owned by Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company. And there was only $42 million of coverage. Durrani flees, and they tried to get out of paying these people money because he fled. Well, we proved that Medical Protective and Durrani committed fraud in this lack of cooperation defense. Then they tried to rescind the policy by claiming he lied on the application after 12 years. So as I'm talking to you right now, Kimberly, and you can't make it up, there's $40 million left on this insurance policy, and Medical Protective has refused to make a single offer on a single case or any type of global offer, despite that only being like $100,000 per victim. It gets even better. When we first brought the cases and the judge would say, how come you're not paying these people these claims? It's crazy. Well, they said we needed some trials. You know how it is, Kimberly. You got to, as a lawyer, you're a great lawyer, have to go to court and we have to see. Well, usually in medical malpractice cases, and you know that, they're hard. You lose 90% of them. Well, we've won 80% of them. Amazing. $350 million in verdicts, $56 million covered under that policy, and Medical Protective still refuses to pay these people. So after 13 years and counting, we have to continue to try case after case after case. And the Ohio court system, you can't make this up, the Ohio Supreme Court has a rule that if you file a lawsuit, it has to be resolved within 3 years. It's called a rule of superintendents.
Mhm.
They've ignored that own law that they have. So, Kimberly, we've tried about 140 cases in 12 years. We now have another 200 or so to try, and it's going to be another 10 years. And the Ohio Supreme Court just simply said, too bad, too bad. So where we are now, we have a $1 billion fraud claim pending against Warren Buffett's Medical Protective Company in federal court. There's a status hearing on that on January 28th, and we'll see what happens. But we want a jury trial to tell the world what happened.
No, absolutely. Take it to the court of public opinion as well. And
Right.
also to create an awareness that people understand that this is happening, and to prevent anything like this atrocity to ever happen to anybody else. It's absolutely outrageous, especially when you think about the care and protection and trust that you put in medical professionals. For them to grossly violate that and to open people's bodies up and injure them and hurt them is beyond evil and malicious. It is demonic, and it is disgusting, and should not happen in this country or any country throughout the world. So I applaud you for what you are doing. And I want you to kind of try to encapsulate what you want everyone across America to really truly know about this story. I know it tugged at your heart, and you're a prayerful man and a man of God. And also, personally, the price, Eric, that you face, the consequences you face for taking on this case and telling this story and exposing this corruption.
Well, fortunately for America, we just saw the 47th president installed, and I'm very fortunate to call you and Don and Eric and the president friend. And what's amazing about it is, and the reason why I bring that up is what the president went through when he had to stand up for himself. I can relate to that, because here's what happened. When I filed these lawsuits against these hospitals, and you're talking about the most powerful individuals, the largest law firms in the Cincinnati area, and they control the media, they control the court system. They went after me, and they went after me trying to get my license suspended. My license did get suspended, but I retired so I could put together a legal team to continue to fight this cause. These cases cost me personally $2 million a year for the team. These are spine cases. So we have to bring in neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, neuroradiologists. We have lawyers. We have people who prepare the cases. And we bring this team into the courtroom to fight this battle. So it's very expensive. So I've made that sacrifice. In addition to that, the vilification of me is unbelievable. I have to endure it from the local media. I have to endure it from the local legal community, the local court system, where they try to portray me as the bad guy when I'm fighting these people. Now, I went to jail, actually, Kimberly. I mean, this story, literally, this story has the most amazing anecdotes. There was a gag order in place, and this judge was named Judge Schweikert, and I stood before him, and he wouldn't give these victims their trials. And I called him evil to his face. And he threw me in the Hamilton County Justice Center for 15 days. And I got out after 8 days. But I literally went to jail and spent 8 days in the Hamilton County Justice Center fighting for these victims. And I am so honored that these victims trust me, have been loyal to me. We have this great bond. But to get to after I've laid that groundwork, what I want everyone across America to know, that there is happening right now in Cincinnati, Ohio, not just like Dr. Death, where he performed a bunch of surgeries and a few people died. This guy killed people. This guy committed massive malpractice. He lied. He would say their radiology was, this radiology here shows that you got severe stenosis. And everyone who stood up and fought back, and including me, they come down hard. So you're literally fighting the world. And right now, Medical Protective has thrown up every possible block that they can in the legal system, and we just keep outsmarting them and keep fighting them. And that lawsuit for fraud, I think, will go to trial probably in 2025, and we'll finally get them. But this story shows how corporate healthcare has taken over our healthcare system, and it's about money. It's not just about healthcare and medicine. It's about how much money we can make. And there's stories all across the United States, Kimberly, you alluded to it, about these spine surgeries. They make a ton of money off of them. And it's just sad. Oh, one final thing about this. He preyed upon the lowest socioeconomic group in the Cincinnati area, and he was the #1 biller of Medicare and Medicaid. And the government did come down on the hospitals, and they had to pay back a bunch of money. But the world needs to hear this story.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to your powerful voice, your passionate voice as an advocate for victims standing for justice, the world shall hear it. From my understanding, so the state of Ohio, and I want to get into some of the legalities here, does require, you sort of touched on this, every civil case to be over in 3 years. Now, these proceedings have gone on for over a decade. What's
Right.
going on here?
It is insane. When we filed these lawsuits, we asked, beginning in 2013, Kimberly, for group trials. And a judge, his name is Judge Robert Rubin in Hamilton County, Ohio, put all the cases together, and he was going to have 3 big trials, and they'd be over by 2017. Maureen O'Connor, and you had her picture up there. Thank you for doing so, Drew. Maureen O'Connor, the Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court, got elected by massive insurance money. And she took Judge Ruhlman off the case the morning of a mediation, split the cases all up, then brought in Judge Schweikert, the guy that threw me in jail. Judge Schweikert refused to hold group trials. And we told him, we said, wait a minute, there's 580 victims. Why should somebody file a lawsuit in 2013 and their case isn't over for 12 years just because there's so many? And we said, get one judge, put them all in one room. Now, Judge Guy Reese, who currently is trying the cases in state court, is giving us group trials of 2 and 3. And he's doing the best that he can. We don't have a problem with Guy Reese. The problem is the Ohio Supreme Court is the ones that administrates the courts, and they just don't care. I mean, it is bizarre, Kimberly. If you filed a lawsuit in Hamilton County or anywhere in the state of Ohio, any county, and you filed that lawsuit in 2013, it's over. 2014, it's over. 2015, it's over. 2016, it's over. 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. Your case is over. Yet, the Durrani victims is not. Right. And Warren Buffett brags, good timing there. Warren Buffett brags that he gave $5 billion to charity last year. Yet, a measly $40 million to pay for these victims doesn't happen. Everyone needs to know that Warren Buffett, Medical Protective, the CEO of Tim Kennedy, would rather these people die. By the way, Kimberly, over 100 have died waiting for their trials. Another one died last night. Another one actually died last night. They don't care. The court system doesn't care. And Warren Buffett doesn't care.
Oh, I feel terrible for these families, but, hopefully you can bring them some, comfort and some closure on this in the right form of justice. And I want to talk to you specifically about the media and the press because I came to you and said, hey, can we cover this? Like, what is the latest? What's going on with this case, with this story? I care deeply about this as a former prosecutor, always fighting and striving for victims and to give them a voice. But we haven't seen the press cover this in the way that they should. And many Americans aren't even familiar with this case, with this outrageous scandal and corruption. Why is that?
It amazes. It's kind of weird, Kimberly, and I think part of it in the local Cincinnati media is because I'm a Trump supporter, and you, who have been on the inside of MAGA, know what that's like. The vilification that you get from being a Trump supporter. So it's like, well, he's a Trump supporter. But you brought up the fact that you're a prosecutor. Do you know that despite all of the evidence that we had about the hospitals knowing, the federal prosecutors and the state prosecutors did not prosecute them? But what happens is in the Cincinnati area, and by the way, all the local news is now owned by national news. We have 4 TV stations and 1 newspaper, and they're all owned by nationals. The second largest advertiser for them are the hospitals. But for them not to cover what's going on with medical protective is damn near criminal. Let me give you a couple funny things. It's sad things, actually, Kimberly. I know you've never heard of this before because I never heard of it before. The jury verdicts, the civil jury verdicts are actually sealed. In the history of America, no civil jury verdict has ever been sealed. And the whole purpose of punitive damages is to tell the world about it all. And they've actually sealed. Now, how is it not a national news story that Warren Buffett wouldn't pay these people $40 million? You have 580 people with unnecessary spine surgeries. They can't get a trial over 12 years. It's going to be 10 more years and going. There's a gag order, which I'm violating right now. I don't care. A lawyer went to jail fighting for them to get their trials. I mean, how is this not a national news story, or at least a local news story? And it's flabbergasting, Kimberly. It's just wrong.
Yeah. And give us the current status right now. Like, what can we expect next? What would you like to see happen, and in what order?
Well, what's going to happen? First off, thank you. I hope this leads to more publicity because, as you know, that's what they hate. They hate negative publicity. Medical Protective wants to hurt these people in silence. But there's a hearing on January 28th in front of Judge Michael Barrett, a federal judge in Cincinnati, and he has set the fraud case against Medical Protective for what's called a discovery conference. You know what that is? That's where, okay, where are we? And we'll see what happens there. But I think that based upon the discovery that's gone on in that case, that I would expect Judge Michael Barrett to set that fraud case against Medical Protective to trial sometime in 2025. And that is when we will get our justice. Because can you imagine, Kimberly, a jury listening to 400 people who's covered by Medical Protective telling their story, and it goes like this. What happened? Unnecessary spine surgery, 2009. When did you file your lawsuit? 2013. Did you go to trial? Yes. When? 2020. Did you win your trial? Yes. Did you go to appeal? They appealed it. Did you win your appeal? Yes. Did they pay you? No. I mean, and what they did, this is a wild story, Kimberly. They told us Durrani wasn't cooperating when he fled to Pakistan. For 5 years, we tried to get his deposition. The judge scared him a little bit, so they offered us a deposition, Kimberly. And at his deposition, Dr. Durrani from video says, I've always wanted to defend these cases. I always wanted to cooperate. So Dr. Durrani, the indicted fleeing felon, basically hung Medical Protective out on their lack of cooperation defense. And that's the fraud that they committed against us, trying to claim that, he's not cooperating. He's not cooperating when he was. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And Kimberly, I don't want to share these stories, although I did share one with you and Don at Patriots Day Freedom Fest. It's so funny what I have to do day in and day out, raising money for this cause. I mean, it's $2 million. Mm-hmm. And the money that I made from the hospital settlements is all put back in. And I got a lot of dear friends who are helping me. But if this was a Netflix, and we've had some discussions, but I want the top of the line. I don't want somebody that they think they can do a movie. When this does become a movie or a documentary on Netflix, HBO, whatever, some of the stories will blow you away. Like Terrible. A Cincinnati Children's Hospital doctor, Dr. Charles Melman, blew the whistle on him and they told him to shut up.
Terrible.
Then they went after him. Four doctors in 2009, Kimberly, wrote a letter to the Ohio Medical Board to complain about him. The lawyers for the hospital, Charles Pangburn, said, don't send it. 4 doctors tried to save these people. And while they vilify me, Kimberly, when I got him prosecuted, that saved thousands and thousands of people from his scalpel. But my biggest, besides fighting for these victims, my biggest accomplishment is the people I saved from him.
Agree. Can you imagine? But for you, and the grace of God, what could you even possibly imagine? So people want to get more information and help you, fight for justice and for these victims in the case. And so many of them, God rest their souls. May they rest in peace. Let us not allow their suffering to go unnoticed and unremarked in history. So I think it's important people know where to go, give the website, etc., for any information where people can get involved or follow this story, since sometimes the mainstream media is not doing so.
There is a website called butcherpakistan.com, and you can also email me at eric@ericdeters.com. Easy to remember, eric@ericdeters.com. And if you're somebody who would like to donate financially to the cause, if you're somebody who has connections in the news media, if you're somebody that's got connections to podcasters, whatever, Kimberly Guilfoyle, who's a dear friend, and she given us this is the first. You're breaking this story, Kimberly.
Thank you.
You are breaking this story for the country. Hopefully it leads to the justice for these victims. Because as you mentioned, if you can't beat them in the court, well, we're beating them in the courtroom, but they hate negative publicity, don't they? They hate negative publicity.
Well, they've gotten the facts here today, and the facts do not look good for them. And we just need to, persevere to make sure the story gets out there, the public is aware of it, and justice delayed is not justice denied. My dear friend, Eric Deters, thank you for what you do. You're a champion of justice and a voice for the victims.
Thank you, Kimberly. I cannot thank you enough. Hearts filled with gratitude. All of these people are watching, and I can tell you they thank you.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure and honor to be a proper journalist and get the news and the facts out there, especially about a case as egregious as this. Eric Deters, thank you. Be well.
Thank you, Kimberly.